If it had been fabricated, they would have been more selective with the choice of witnesses. It says in John chapter 19, after these things, Joseph of Arimathea, being a disciple of Jesus, but a secret one for fear of the Jews, and asked Pilate that he might take away the body of Jesus, and Pilate granted permission. So he came and took away his body. Nicodemus, who had first come to him by night, also came, bringing a mixture of myrrh and aloes, about 100 pounds weight. These two witnesses are key. This is like saying, Chief Justice Roberts saw it. This is a big deal. Both of these guys are on the Sanhedrin. The Sanhedrin is their Supreme Court. It's 70 men plus the high priest make up the Sanhedrin. Here's two of people from the Sanhedrin, and he names them by name. Ask them. John names them by name. If John were making this thing up, he never would have mentioned them by name. This argues strongly against the fabrication. Both were on the Sanhedrin. The account listing the names of witnesses argues against its fabrication. Mary would never have been identified as the first to see Jesus. This is critical. John 20 reports, Mary Magdalene came announcing to the disciples, I have seen the Lord, and that he had said these things to her. Now, after he had risen early on the first day of the week, he first appeared to Mary Magdalene, from whom he had cast out 7 demons. First appearance was to Mary. He appeared to Cephas, then to the 12. After that, he appeared to more than 500 brethren. Why is Paul, 20 years after the resurrection account, forgetting Mary? He never says he appeared first to Cephas, that's Peter. It says he appeared to Cephas, then to the 12. Why didn't he mention Mary? Because Mary is irrelevant. And the reason she's irrelevant is because in Israel and in Rome, women had no legal standing. Their testimony meant nothing. It was like asking the family dog, is that the guy who robbed the house? You can't trust the testimony of the dog. Women had no legal standing. This is history. Get over it. We're past that, okay? So, women had no legal standing. This is why it says he first appeared to Mary. And here, when Paul is building a legal argument concerning the resurrection, he never mentions Mary because her testimony is irrelevant. Well, why would the Bible report that Jesus appeared first to Mary? Why would the Bible do that? Because that's the way it happened. Because Jesus is not bound by any of these rules, nor does he care for them. He's going to appear first to Mary. Well, why Mary? Well, it doesn't say, but we can guess. Mary Magdalene had 7 demons cast out of her, and Jesus said, he who has been forgiven much loves much. She had 7 demons cast out of her. You take a person who has gone through great trials in their life and wandered very, very far, and then experienced the grace and the mercy and the forgiveness of God like Mary did. They love God very, very much. He who has been forgiven much loves much. Mary loved God so much. Maybe that's why Jesus appeared first to Mary. But he did appear first to Mary. The account listing Mary as the first witness argues overwhelmingly against this fabrication. Had they been fabricating it, they never would have said, oh, he appeared first to Mary. No way. They would have said, he appeared first to Peter. That's Peter. He's the prime guy. Or they all would have argued, no, he appeared first to me. To Mary? This makes no sense. And remember, they would have had to start making this up immediately. It's not like they had a lot of time to think this out. That he appeared first to a woman adds validity to the truth of the Scriptures. There would have been, if the resurrection account had been fabricated, there would have been supernatural displays at the moment of Jesus coming out of the tomb. And behold, a severe earthquake had occurred, for an angel of the Lord descended from heaven and came and rolled away the stone and sat upon it. And his appearance was like lightning, and his clothing was white as snow. The guards shook for fear of him and became like dead men. And I put in the word fainted. They became like dead men. These were Roman guards that were put there to make sure that nobody broke into that grave and stole the body. the angel comes and he rolls away the stone. The guards, who are the only people present there, are like dead men. And that's all you have. You have nothing. Wouldn't it be great if I were making this up? And when Jesus came out, he was just like lightning coming out, and the Father was saying, "Behold, my beloved Son," and he's twirling around and rising up off the ground. And that's what you would do if you were fabricating the account. Amen. If you're going to embellish this, embellish it. But there's no report because no one was there. The guards were fainted and no one was there. So it's not reported. What actually happened when Jesus came out? We don't know if he was floating. We don't know if he was walking. We don't know. We don't know if he came running out. Ta-da! Here's everybody. We don't know. The account reporting no witnesses to the moment of his leaving the tomb argues against its fabrication. If they were fabricating it, why not fabricate there? If the resurrection account had been fabricated, the religious leaders and the guards would not have had to invent this story to cover up the resurrection. Matthew 28 says, "Now, while they were on their way, some guards came into the city and reported to the chief priests all that had happened. And when they had assembled with the elders and consulted together, they gave a large sum of money to the soldiers and said, 'You are to say, his disciples came by night and stole him away while we were asleep. And if this should come to the governor's ears, we will win him over and keep you out of trouble.' And they took the money and did as they had been instructed. And this story was widely spread among the Jews, and it is to this day, and it actually remains to this day." So the guards the guards didn't know what to do. Here they wake up, the tomb is open, the body's gone. They know that they're going to die. They had been set there to guard the tomb. If the body is taken away, they lose their life. Typical Roman law for a soldier. You mess up on your task, you're dead. So they don't go. They don't go to Pilate, the governor. What they do is they go to the Sanhedrin. They say, "We got trouble here. The body's gone." So they make this up. They say, "Well, just say his disciples came by night and stole him away while we were asleep." You know the problem with that? If you're asleep, you don't know. If you're asleep, how do you know who stole him away? It makes no sense. That's what happens when you fabricate a story. If asleep, how did they know who took the body? The religious leaders and the guards inventing and propagating such a story argues against the fabrication of the resurrection account. This is what happens when you make up a story and make it up quickly. It makes no sense. You don't know who took the body if you were asleep. And all the guards were asleep. If the resurrection account had been fabricated, the four gospel accounts would have been more duplicative in their testimony of the events. You think, all the accounts should be the same. All right. I give examples. There's an organic exam going on tonight. And when I teach organic chemistry, those who take the exam, I often require, if they can't take the exam in the room, they have to take the exam at the same time. So two students were going off on a class trip for another class. And they needed to, and I said, "Okay, you're going to take the exam on the same night at the same time that the students in the class are taking it." And so I gave the exam with my own hand, 2 copies of the exam. I put them in an envelope, gave them to the professor with whom they were going. And I told the professor, send them each to their individual rooms, let them take the exam from 7 to 9. Then they can come back, give you the exams, put them in the envelope, give them back to me. So he put them in the envelope, he brought them back to me, and normally I don't grade the exams, the TAs grade them, and the teaching assistants do that. And so, but there were only 2. To try to dig them up would be harder than just grading the 2. So I sat down and I graded one. Then I graded the other, and as I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, I just graded this same question that looked like in that one. Now, in organic chemistry, there is one right answer, and there are 1 million wrong answers. When the wrong answers are the same, that's a problem. Not only were the wrong answers the same, the molecules were tilted at exactly the same angle. Remember, molecules rotate in space. Why would you happen to capture exactly the same orientation, and exactly the same electrons pushing, and the same curved arrows? If you have something that is entirely duplicated, you know it's fabricated. Lawyers know this. We have the former district attorney is sitting right here. When two people's stories are the same, absolutely the same, what does that say? Chuck, what does that mean? Means they're lying. There you go. There's a district attorney. He knows this. Lawyers know this. District attorney knows this. Judges know this. Juries don't know this. When two stories are exactly the same, somebody's lying. Somebody's lying. Because they're never the same. Once my pastor and I heard a man give a confession to a crime. And then the man recounted his confession, and we were in court, and my pastor went up to tell his version of the man's confession. And I'm hearing his version. I'm thinking, you old man, you don't even remember how this happened. In essence, it's the same. But it was very different than the way I recalled this. That's normal. Two people see a car accident. You get, in essence, it's the same, but they're never identical. If you were going to be fabricating this, did they do? The four gospel writers would say, okay, what'd you write? Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, we've got to make sure our stories are the same. That they're not the same argues that it's not been fabricated. This is normal. Precise overlap in the accounting of events speaks of collusion. The resurrection account reporting the events as a complementary set of records rather than a duplicative set argues against its fabrication. If the resurrection account had been fabricated, the apostles would be shown in a more favorable light and not as being timid and unbelieving. When they heard that he was alive and had been seen by her, they refused to believe it. Also, the other women with them were telling these things to the apostles, but these words appeared to them as nonsense and they would not believe them. If they were making this up, they say, the women came and they told us, and of course he's risen from the dead. He only told us 100 times this would happen. What else would you think? I knew exactly that this would happen. That's what they would have written. The exposed weakness of the apostles argues against its fabrication. This is why the scriptural accounts are always written by the prophets and not by the kings of Israel. If it were written by the kings, it would have been false. It was written by the prophets and not by the kings. Here's a story from the Bible. In Acts 22, it's a story about a Roman commander. This talks about writing yourself into a good light. This is exactly what I do. I do this. When I'm giving an account of what happened, and I'm writing an email, I say this and this, I don't write all the details that make me look bad. And I give them the essence of the story. But I don't make myself look bad. You know what I mean? This is the way life is. The commander ordered him to be brought into the barracks, stating that he should be examined by scourging, so that he might find out the reason why they were shouting against him in that way. But when they stretched him out with thongs, Paul said to the centurion, who was standing by, "Is it lawful for you to scourge a man who is a Roman and uncondemned?" And when the centurion heard this, he went out to the commander and told him, saying, "What are you about to do? For this man is a Roman." The commander came and said to him, "Tell me, are you a Roman?" And he said, "Yes." Therefore, those who were about to examine him immediately let him go. And the commander also was afraid when he found out that he was a Roman and because he had put him in chains. He put Paul in chains illegally. He thought he was just a non-Roman, so you could do this and you could beat on him without any trial. But a Roman citizen, you weren't allowed to do this. So he knew he was in trouble. So what did this commander do? He wrote to his superior the account of what happened. Here's his account.